Hey yo, thanks for tuning in to Celeb Sauce. It's the backup channel backing Celeb up and bringing you all the breaking news. Remember back in 2020 when everybody was rocking a BLM t-shirt and everybody was out in them streets rallying and protesting because of racial injustice and the George Floyd murder? And the government and some businesses were finally coming to grips with the fact that there might have been some quote-unquote institutional racism that might have, could have, maybe happened in America at one point or another. And all the big businesses and corporations were giving us black commercials to let us know that we are people too. Well, during that time, San Francisco's Board of Supervisors created the African American Reparations Advisory Committee, also known as the AARAC, and they tasked the AARAC with finding comprehensive solutions to the inequalities that exist in the city's black communities. After being given that task, the AARAC went out and they did some research, and guess what? They have now come back with a comprehensive solution. The AARAC has submitted a proposal to the city to give every qualifying black person who lives in San Francisco $5 million as part of a reparations plan to cover, quote, the economic and opportunity losses the community has endured throughout history, end quote, both due to the city's policies and the wider effects of societal discrimination. The first drafts of the proposed legislation have already been submitted to the city, and a final version of the reparations proposal will be submitted in June 2023. Now, in order to qualify for these reparations, residents must be 18 at the time the proposal is enacted, identify as Black or African American on public documents for at least 10 years, and meet 2 of 9 other pieces of criteria, which include being a descendant of someone enslaved through U.S. chattel slavery through 1865, or being someone who's born in San Francisco between 1940 and 1996 and has proof of residency in San Francisco for at least 13 years. After hearing about the proposed legislation, African-American civil rights attorney Leo Terrell went on Fox News and said, quote, I will be the first lawyer to fight against this. This is outrageous, it's unlawful, it's unconstitutional, it's racist, but it's not surprising that it came from California. End quote. Terrell also went on to say that black people in San Francisco don't deserve no dough because back in the day, California was a free state. Ayo, check it. We're not falling for that Missouri Compromise nonsense about California being a free state. Dude, you gotta understand that most of those families that were in the deep south that were slaves or who were sharecropping eventually migrated to places like San Francisco, Harlem, Philly, Detroit, and Chicago. Additionally, every state in the U.S. between the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean benefited from slavery. It's not like they were like stopping slavery at the border and they're like, listen, the humble state of California is not going to accept those slave products or cash or cotton or lumber or tobacco from over there in them slave states. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, you can miss me with all of that free state, slave state nonsense. All the states benefited off the backs of black people. So what they really need to do is give us our reparations, give the Native Americans some of their land back, give the Chinese people stock in the railroad that they built, and also pay the Latinx community the fair wages that they're owed. And while you're doing all of that, you need to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and give back every piece of property to every black person who lived there, along with money to rebuild that property. Why? Because you burnt Black Wall Street down. And as the old saying goes, you broke it, you fix it. And while we're talking about race relations, I'm going to take a minute to welcome a new member to the black community. Actor Joe Manganiello, the star of True Bloods, recently went on Henry Louis Gates' show, Finding Your Roots, where Gates helped celebrities trace their ancestry. And while he was on the show, he found out that he's black. After being shocked by this new news of his new blackness, which was confirmed by DNA, Manganiello also learned that he's 7% sub-Saharan African, which means he descended from slaves. He also found out that the man that he thought was his grandfather, Emilio Manganiello, isn't. His father's DNA revealed that his great-grandparents were William Henry Cutler, a black man, and Nellie Alton, a white woman. In response to the news, Manganiello said, quote, I never understood who I was until now, end quote. Listen, I'm very happy for Joe Manganiello because I think it's very important for you to understand your ancestral background. That helps you to understand who you are today. But I gotta tell you, I feel a little sad for dude too. You know why? Because Joe Manganiello has not been black long enough to take advantage of those reparations that they're gonna be giving out in California. Remember, one of the criteria is that you gotta be black for at least 10 years. Listen, I can almost guarantee you, if they pass that law in San Francisco, you watch and see how many people try to do the Rachel Dolezal. Trust me, Ancestry.com is not going to have enough cotton swabs to keep up with the amount of people trying to do DNA tests to try to get them a little African ancestry. Hey yo, on to the next story. In August 2017, MC Lyte married Marine Corps veteran and entrepreneur John Wyke. She met the dude on Match.com. He swiped her, she swiped him, and the next thing you know, they're walking down the aisle. Well, apparently, Match.com didn't do a good job making a match because 5 months later, these two were walking into a courtroom filing divorce papers citing irreconcilable differences. Well, now, 5 years later, the divorce has finally been finalized, and MC Lyte is walking out of the marriage with everything that she walked into the marriage with, thanks to a prenup. According to the divorce decree, along with her catalog and other creative property, including royalties in connection to her creative works, Lyte will also keep her clothing, jewelry, watches, and personal effects. In addition to all that, she gets to keep her earnings and accumulations before the date of the marriage, during the marriage, and post-separation. She also gets to keep her Subaru, her financial accounts that are all in her name, all her furniture, and her term life insurance policy. And on top of all of that, each party has to waive their right to spousal support. I gotta tell you, I have a feeling, had Lyte not had the prenup in place, this dude might have tried to leave her paper thin. You know why? How in the world are you only married for 5 months, but it takes you 5 years to litigate your divorce in court? That's crazy. But MC Lyte should have known better than to marry one of these Match.com dudes. That's right, C-O-N. This dude was not looking for a relationship. This dude was looking for a come up. And I gotta tell you, I'm totally confused because I don't understand why was MC Lyte like on Match.com in the first place. And then once she saw this dude on the website, why oh why did she go out and drink the cappuccino with him? Listen, while we're talking about scammers and their potential scams, recently, Jamaican track star and gold medalist Usain Bolt was scammed out of $10 million. They took all of his dough out of his retirement fund and only left him with $2,000 in the bank. According to a report by Essentially Sports, Bolt was scammed out of $998,000 in his personal stocks and security limited SSL retirement fund, and only $2,000 remains in the account. According to sources, the sprinter's retirement funds were wiped out, and Usain fears he won't recover the money. Hey yo, let's pray for Usain Bolt because that mess right there is jacked up. I can't stand when people feel it's alright to rob from other people. That man worked hard for his money and then you're gonna go take his money? Yo, that's foul. And on the real, the bank needs to give Usain his money back. Yo, do they have any type of like FDIC type insurance in Jamaica? If you're from Jamaica, let me know in the comments. Now, while we're talking about getting money, we gotta discuss the fact that Flo Rida just won an $82 million lawsuit against Celsius energy drink. In an interview with CNBC's Squawk Box, Flo said that he popularized Celsius energy drinks after he was asked to be the beverage brand's ambassador back in 2014. Flo Rida said, quote, well, this started back in 2014. I was asked to be the brand ambassador for Celsius. I mean, this was a young company out of the state of Florida, and myself, I thrive on health. Since being in 9th grade, all I did was love fitness, knowing that health is really wealth. So I was in this thing for the long haul, and basically when it came down to getting compensated, they were telling me that one of the products that I was endorsing wasn't selling, and I got a chance to look at it and it was doing more than well. This product done over tens and tens of millions of dollars since I joined the company, end quote. When Flo Rida realized that the company was trying to stick him for his dough, he filed a lawsuit and he took the company to court. So this week, while they were in court, Celsius claimed that it compensated Flo and adequately paid Flo for his contributions. However, a jury saw it very differently. The Broward County Court sided with Flo and a judge ordered the company to pay him $82 million. Now that's what I'm talking about. You can't let these companies be out here trying to play with your money. They want to use your image and likeness, but then they don't want to cut them checks when it comes to paying you for all the money that you brought into the business. Congratulations to Flo. He deserved his dough. And he's going to need all of that dough to pay the $9,000 in child support that the court previously ordered him to pay in 2018 for his son, Zohar. And while we're speaking about legal battles, Lil Wayne apparently suffered a major setback in his $20 million legal battle with his former manager. According to Law.com, Lil Wayne had 4 of his claims in his lawsuit against his former manager, Ronald Sweeney, shot down by the appellate division of the court. The 4 claims that they shot down were related to, quote, actions for fraudulent inducement, legal malpractice, breach of fiduciary duty, and unjust enrichment, end quote. Listen, I already know what you're thinking. You're like, listen, I thought Lil Wayne was in court with the chef, and I thought Lil Wayne was in court with the dude that he punched out on the plane. Where did this new court case come from? Well, apparently, this dude Sweeney claims that he served as Wayne's primary attorney and manager since 2005, and he's suing Wayne for $20 million, which he claims is his rightful cut to Wheezy's settlement with Cash Money Records. Court documents related to Sweeney's lawsuit against Wayne alleged that Lil Wayne, quote, failed and refused to pay plaintiff his promised 10% of the recovery from lawsuits, 10% of the sale of master recordings owned by Lil Wayne's record label, and 17% in general commissions that he owes the plaintiff in connection with the plaintiff's day-to-day management activities, end quote. So basically, after this dude hit Wayne with the lawsuit, Wayne took it to the appellate court. Now it's in the appellate court, and the appellate court is not feeling Wayne's claims. I gotta tell you, Lil Wayne might as well just go ahead and buy himself a nice little spot right next door to the court, or get himself a nice long-term Airbnb or something, cause this dude stays in court. Now on to the next story. Yo, why was I watching the news and I see this story about somebody putting a backpack on a pigeon to send some drugs into the jail? And I'm not talking about attaching a package to the pigeon. I mean a backpack. I mean like one of those Adidas and Puma backpacks that you send your kids to school in. They put a backpack on the pigeon. Okay, maybe it was not an Adidas or Puma backpack, but still, it was a backpack. This is what happened. Last week, Canadian officials reported capturing a pigeon carrying a tiny backpack filled with illicit drugs in a Vancouver prison yard. The bird was caught at Pacific Institution in Abbotsford, about 50 miles east of Vancouver. John Randall, a spokesman for the Union of Canadian Correctional Officers, said the pigeon was rocking, quote, a tiny fabric backpack containing crystal meth, end quote. After the Canadian officials spotted the nefarious drug-dealing bird in the yard, they basically set a trap and they caught the bird red-handed. And when they opened up the backpack, they found all of the meth. Now get this, after they caught the bird didn't snitch like all of those dudes in the YSL RICO case, including Gunna, because this bird knows the code of the streets. So as of now, we don't know who had this bird bringing these narcotics into the jail. Listen, I wish that bird would have snitched, because I really want to know who the wise guys were who thought that that was a great idea. I mean, I can just imagine it in my head. I can imagine how that planning process went down. They were on the phone and one dude was like, listen, I'm gonna need you to go get a pigeon, right? And after you get the pigeon, you gotta train the pigeon to fly over here. Then you gotta make a tiny backpack and you put the methamphetamine in the tiny backpack. And when the pigeon flies over the yard, I'm gonna scoop the pigeon up and I'm gonna grab the meth out the backpack. Listen, the craziest part about the whole story is that the pigeon was smart enough to make it to the yard, but the pickup dude wasn't. Hey yo, on to the next story. As I'm sure you already know, Rihanna is going to be doing this year's halftime show at the Super Bowl. And while most people are excited to see what Riri is going to do, one person who's not so excited is StephenA.Smith. While Stephen was doing Hot Take with Sherry this week, the topic of Riri's upcoming performance came up, and StephenA.Smith just had to offer his opinion about Rihanna's performance. Stephen said, quote, "I don't want to say I'm not excited. She's fantastic. That's not where I'm going with this. Ladies and gentlemen, she's a lot of things. She's spectacular, actually, and congratulations on new mamahood. There's just one thing she's not. She ain't Beyonce." End quote. After that comment came out of StephenA.Smith's mouth, the crowd that was listening to the show actually gave out an audible gasp. And then he tried to backtrack and he tried to act like the shade was not shade. StephenA.Smith went on to say, quote, "That's not throwing shade on them. That's appreciating their greatness, but understanding there's levels." Oh my goodness, StephenA.Smith needs to stick to talking about sports and leave Bey and Ree's name out of it, because both of those women are equally talented and they're doing their own thing in their own respective lanes, and neither one of them is bothering nobody, so StephenA.Smith needs to shut it down. Hey yo, let me know what you think about what StephenA.Smith said in the comments. Do you think he's right? Do you think that Rihanna is not on the level of Beyonce? Or do you think he was just trying to throw unnecessary shade? Hey yo, thanks for tuning in to Celeb Sauce, your source for celebrity news. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Peace.